Hi, my name is Heather Murphy, and this is my video reflection for my portfolio for my library practicum class. As I look through my portfolio, trying to decide which assignments I'm most proud of and which one shows the most growth and knowledge of the library and the standards, I think personally that my whole portfolio is something that I'm proud of. It shows all the work I put in, all the growth I have done to kind of get here, but I do have a couple that I'm very proud of and I think show the standards and everything I'm supposed to accomplish during this program. So I'm going to kind of go through those now with you. One of the things that I'm most proud of are my assignments with my standards and the AASL artifacts with the standards. So starting with standard 1, I decided to use that standard and to complete a weeding process at the high school that I worked in with Mrs. Bartleson, my library mentor at the high school level. And we decided to look at the library as a whole. We kind of thought we knew what needed to be weeded, but we wanted to make sure that that was the area that was needed the most. So we did a couple collection analysis and we figured out that the nonfiction section needed weeded. So it was kind of more of a process. We followed the procedures in place, but then we had to adapt those procedures and kind of clear it up a little bit. For example, we started with nonfiction. We decided to do the last 10 years that they've been out of circulation, and then we went from 0 to 100 in the Dewey Decimal System. And we started pulling books, but we noticed that it wasn't pulling the books like in order of the Dewey Decimal System, and we weren't exactly sure how they were deciding that these books needed to be pulled before others because other books also had been out of circulation within 10 years. So we were noticing some gaps, so we ended up deciding to pull books and narrow the gap to like 0 to 10 to see if it'd pull all the books, and that actually worked. So this assignment just shows kind of the process we went through and how we got there to start weeding, and we decided to make it a slow process. That way we can bring new nonfiction books in without wiping out our whole collection. And here's just a picture of some of the books that we weeded, and if you notice after it loads there's like a whole section of books that are black at the bottom, and this was one of the problems that we noticed when we were weeding them, that it would only pull like 6 of the books out, and then when we looked at their circulation date we noticed that they were 10 years old as well, or even older. So that's when we had to go back and kind of adapt. And that is just one of the assignments that we were most proud of, or I was most proud of myself, because it made me think and it made me work through the process and trying to figure out what books I needed to pull and why this process that we started with wasn't working. And so it also shows that I know how to weed. I know the standards of keeping my library up to date and the means to do it, to make sure that my library always stays up to date for my students. The second standard was a collaboration lesson with 3rd grade. They were learning fables, and it just shows collaboration is a big factor for the library, and it's a big standard that library media specialist needs to know. And so this assignment just shows that I understand how important collaboration is with other teachers and with the students and different things like that. And so this was one of my video assignments as well. So I have the video linked to show our fables assignment as well as the Handy 5 lesson plan for this one. But I thought that this standard showed that I can collaborate with teachers and make sure the students are getting what they need in the library. Standard 3 went over library orientation, and so I was able to work at the high school and do a library orientation for freshmen through seniors. And one of the things we completed was a library handout. Mrs. Barlson already had one from the years before, but I took that and I adapted it, especially with the new regulations for COVID this year, and added some new things in. So we made this, and then I was able to give orientation to all the freshmen through senior classes and give them this. We actually put this on their Google Classroom instead of handing it out paper pencil, as one of the different things that the school was trying to do, to go less paper pencil and more on the computer just in case they went remote. And then at the second page at the very bottom was the Destiny Quest. and the Destiny Quest was the online resource to check out library books or put holds on library books. So I also showed them how to get to that and how to check out library books, how to put library books on hold, and different things like that, just in case we went remote. And another thing on this standard was I did link a video to one of the classes' orientations showing all of this as well. And this also just helped prove that I can be a technology information teacher and give those the information needed for students to be successful online. Standard 4 was one of my favorite assignments and lessons. This was also a video I completed, and it was over the William Allen White books. And the neat thing about this is that William Allen White award is just for students. They're the ones that get to vote and decide the winner. So I was able to read all the books and give a book talk to each of the classes, grade 3 through 8th, and then they were able to sign up for the books that they wanted to check out. And one of my favorite things to hear was they were so upset that they couldn't check them out right then and there because I still had other classes to do the video presentation with. And so this was just showing that I was getting kids excited and encouraging them to read different books with different genres and diversities and things like that. And so linked on here is the video for the book talk as well. Standard 5 was one that I'm particularly proud of. It is a preschool unit, and so preschool was new for Conway Springs this year, and so I created a preschool unit for the first 6 weeks because they only come to the library once a week. I use the Piggy and Elephant series because it is appropriate for that age level. And then we talked about authors and identifying the characters, and this was my unit that I created, and it also went along with their growth and development stages and what they kind of needed, because we hit on all of the different learning aspects that they needed. So we did visual, we did some audio, we did some kinesthetic, and that is also linked on my assignment. But this just shows that I can put together units that are beneficial for the students and where they need them to be. And finally, our unit, or our last ones, was the AASLA artifacts. And some of the things I completed on this was I did a couple book displays for all grade levels, elementary through high school. And then I also was able to pull different books from the library and to create a list for an ancient cultures class for 6th grade. I did a good resources and how to cite materials for a senior class. I looked at some collection statistics and decided what needed to be done in the library. And I was able to figure out how to get audiobooks off of the Kansas State Library page and how to make Kansas State Library cards for students that might like to listen to books instead of read books, for an adaptation for them as well. So these are kind of my favorite assignments that I completed that way, because I think it just shows overall how much I've learned and how much I have grown throughout this process, and also that I understand the standards and I know how to recognize them and implement them into my library. A few other ones was a collaborative lesson I did. It was with the kindergarten class, and we did Mrs. Nelson is Missing. That's what they did in kindergarten, and then we did Mrs. Nelson Returns, and we continued to hit on characters, which was the standard that Mrs. Zogelman, the kindergarten teacher, was trying to have the students master. One other thing on here was the library policy handbook. I'm just super proud of this one because, one, it shows that I have all the policies and procedures I need for my own library, but I made this handbook based on what I'd want to see in my own library. And so this just kind of shows my thought processes and everything that I wanted to show that I would complete in my own library. So this is something that I am super proud of. And the last thing that I am very proud of actually is my reflection. And it's just because it shows how much growth. In my reflection 1, it talks about what do you kind of expect from this and some prejudgments. And then in my reflection 2, I looked at those prejudgments and noticed how much I learned. One of my prejudgments was I didn't understand kind of how all the assignments correlated, especially with our observations. And then later I realized that all these assignments was going with the standards and how to fit the standards into the library. So the reflection is just something I'm proud of because it showed all the growth that I made throughout this semester. So thank you for listening.